continuing talking about the book of Revelation. We're on to talking about the opening of the seventh seal. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. Pretty esoteric wording there that's difficult to decipher. But let's look at the verse 1, the first verse in mentioning here in chapter 8 of Revelation. And when he had opened the seventh seal, remember we've gone through the first six seals, representative of the six chakras being opened in the journey of the disciple. But now we're talking about the seventh seal, the final one being opened. And when he had opened it, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. This is really peculiar wording. First of all, silence in heaven is an interesting phrase. And the second, that it lasted a half an hour. Why a half an hour? But what's interesting about this verse is, as we read through the book of Revelation, we find that heaven is actually a very noisy place. You have beasts, angels, saints singing, talking, praising God. And then there's a description of lots of fire, blood, trumpets, thunderings, lightnings, earthquakes, all kinds of things going on in heaven in John's vision. So all of a sudden, all these rumblings and lightnings and everything is stopped. When the seventh seal is open, instead of all this activity, there's complete silence for half an hour. What do you think that means? Seventh seal is open, which would be symbolic of the crown at the top of the head. So the top of the head finally becomes active enough, open enough, though, so it's in sync with all the other centers. And then there is silence in heaven. What does that mean? And what does it mean there's so much noise? There's so much thunderings and lightnings and earthquakes, all kinds of activity going on. So the question we want to know, what does this mean? As the person progresses through the various centers, from the base of the spine to the chakra center, where what governs sexual desire, to the solar plexus, which governs regular desire, to the heart and the throat, governs creativity and the love energy, and then the center at the in the forehead governs ideas. You have all this activity going on, and all of a sudden, when you finally get to near the end of the journey, the crown chakra is open. There's silence. What happens when this is open? The disciple experiences what Paul said, which is the peace that passes all understanding. In other words, he finally gets to near the end of his journey, and he experiences, instead of with most of the centers being open, there's new activities happening, symbolized by all the noise and activity in heaven in the book. And then there is complete silence. And there's silence for half an hour. In other words, this peace that passes all understanding doesn't last forever, but it lasts for a symbolic half an hour. Half an hour is enough time to be able to really appreciate some type of sensation or feeling and have it stick with you so you don't forget it. So the disciple, he opens the crown chakra. It becomes extremely active, and when it does, instead of all of a sudden finding new things that you have to do, new work, all you have right at that moment is you experience peace that passes all understanding. And it's a different type of peace. There's peace here upon the earth. For instance, if you're having an argument with a friend or a spouse or whatever, and then the argument is over, you think, oh, nice to have some peace. I'm glad that person finally shut up, so I can have some peace of mind. Okay, that's not the peace that we're talking about here. The peace, which is an inward peace, is very deep, and it's why it's called it's called silence in heaven for the space of half an hour. But what happens after half an hour passes? Does the peace continue? He gets in contact, he opens the crown chakra, and the crown chakra is a link to the will of God. And so when the crown chakra is open, he first experiences this great peace. But then in the peace, he senses the purpose of God. He senses what needs to be done so the kingdom of God can be on earth as it is in heaven. And he gets an impression about what he needs to do to be able to make this happen. So instead of just, after these impressions and revelations come to him, instead of just sitting back and enjoying this peace, which he's felt for a symbolic half hour, he thinks, well, this peace is really nice, but there's work to do. So he experiences the effects of the peace, but he continues to pursue the higher will. So next it says here, and I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Okay, this is the next part of the verse. So he gets this tremendous revelation about things he can do to bring this peace to the earth, to bring heaven to the earth, to link them together. And so he sees these 7 angels which stood before God, and they had these 7 trumpets. So all 7 sinners are awakened, symbolic by the 7 angels, awakened as if by a trumpet. And the purpose of a trumpet is to wake people up. And so these 7 angels have 7 trumpets. And so the 7 sinners are awakened. And energy is sent to fulfill this higher will, this revelation that the disciple received to bring heaven to the earth. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. And there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. The angel here represents the higher self, the soul, as well as higher beings in harmony with your own soul. An example of such a higher being was when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He was weakened, and an angel was sent to strengthen him. This angel was symbolic of this. All the pleadings and all the prayers of the past ages are now like a burning incense that the pilgrim senses, blending the divine will with his own so that the mission can be accomplished. Yeah, it's interesting that this incense that he should offer were the prayers of all saints. And Jesus pointed this out, that really no prayer goes unheeded. And through the ages, the prayers of holy people have been offered up, sacrifices have been made, looking forward to the time when the kingdom of God can manifest upon the earth. And all that energy is still there in circulation. And when the person opens his seven centers, he picks that up, picks up the desire, the prayers of all saints throughout the ages. They have not been wasted. They are picked up by people that are following in the footsteps of Jesus. And this is what Jesus did. This is what gave him strength to consummate his mission, was that he picked up the essence of the prayers of all the dedicated disciples of all the past ages. And he sought to fulfill those prayers. And other people will follow in the footsteps of Christ, and they will pick up those prayers of holy men and women and seek to manifest them on the earth. So all the pleadings and prayers are now like a burning incense that the pilgrim senses, blending with the divine will that now must be accomplished. And then it says, and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with the fire of the altar and cast it to the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So the disciple then feels that the prayers of the saints and the will of God are now one. And he feels like he's got to now have to fulfill his destiny. He's got to seize the day, or seize the will of God and bring it down to the earth. And he will become transformed, resurrected to a new life. And this transformation that he undergoes, where he takes a great step to becoming a master, is talked about in a great insert in the Alice A. Bailey books, where he quotes what he calls the Old Commentary. And the Old Commentary, he says, is a book so ancient that he said he wasn't even going to give its age because we may not believe it is really that old. But this, when he quotes the Old Commentary, it's always very profound wording. His writings are profound enough, but when he quotes the Old Commentary, the words are very, very beautiful. So we'll just go through this this Old Commentary, and he quotes this quote from the Old Commentary tells the path of the disciple from the time that he really achieves soul contact to the time that he actually overcomes death and becomes a master. And this is very concise, wording, but it has a lot of meaning, and we'll just cover it fairly briefly. It starts out with this. When communion is established, words are forthwith used, and mantric law assumes its rightful place, provided that the one communicates the words and the three remain in silence. Okay, it starts out when communion is established. What communion is this? Let's pick on somebody here. When communion is established, what communion must be established? We'll pick on old Joshua here. When communion is established, words are forthwith used, and mantric law assumes its rightful place. Okay, Joshua must have taken a break. How about you, Ed? You got any thoughts on that? What do you think he means when communion is established?
Well, between the soul and the monad, or
Right. So the disciple, the first communion he really has to establish with a firm connection is with his own soul. So in other words, he's saying when soul contact is created, words are forthwith used, and mantric law assumes its rightful place. So what are the words that are used? Well, we use words in a number of ways with soul contact. The most elementary way is through prayer. Through prayer, we use various words and achieve a certain degree of soul contact. But then he talks about mantric law. So there's certain words that are very powerful. There's other words that seem to lack power because they just don't have the spirit behind them. Now, the words that are most powerful is what I've called eternal words. Eternal words are words that just do not pass away. Like, say, a simple phrase from Jesus is, love your neighbor as yourself. Whoever said that first said eternal words, the words that do not pass away. We hear politicians or preachers on TV, they say a lot of things that the words do pass away because they just don't have meaning that actually stick. So there's certain words that speak to the soul, and the disciple finds these words and uses them. And uses them regularly. And this is mantric law taking its rightful place. Now, some of the mantrams given out by various teachers are much closer to spirit than others. Others are maybe close to the material world, like how to make lots of money and stuff like that. Maybe they aren't nearly as potent on the spiritual level as words that take people towards spirit. And this is where mantric law has to assume its rightful place. The disciple finds those words that stick in his mind that he repeats over and over to remind himself, to focus himself on the spirit. It says, provided the one communicates the words and the three remain in silence. Okay, the one that communicates the words has to be the higher self. The three that remain in silence are what? What are the three? The three
Well, it'd have to be the mental, the astral, and the etheric.
Physical, yeah, right. And the three elements of what is called the lower self, the personality, the physical, the emotional astral, and the lower mind, okay? These have to remain in silence. Now, this is hard for the disciple to do, is keep these three silent while so that they can listen to the soul speak. And if they remain in silence, they can pick up eternal words, words which are very powerful to include into their makeup, into their mantras, into their prayers. They can then have a source of great spiritual power. But if they go on words that's made up on the emotional level or the selfish lower mind or the purely material level, those words do not have spiritual power. To find the right words, the one must communicate the words. In other words, the higher self, the Holy Spirit, so to speak, communicates the words, and the three have to remain in silence. And this is one thing they teach in meditation. To have successful meditation, they say you have to silence all the parts of your regular personality. Silence all your thoughts, silence all your feelings, put your body in a state of rest. The three remain in silence, and then you can pick up the words of the soul. So this is the first great step. The one communicates the words, and the three remain in silence. Then he says, when response is recognized as emanating from the three, the one in silence listens. The roles are changed. Okay, so the one, the higher self, the solar angel, waits. He communicates. And then there comes a time when response is recognized as emanating from the three. In other words, we get messages from the spirit and we respond. We respond on a physical level, we respond on an emotional level, and we respond with our minds. All three parts of our being receive. And all three parts must receive for this next step. It's a great step. But then when the soul, the higher self, sees that these three sat in silence, they listened, they registered, they responded, then it says the roles are changed. A threefold word issues out from the triple form. A turning round is caused. A threefold word issues out from the triple form. It's a very interesting statement. In other words, a word, esoterically, a word is not necessarily a word as we have in our dictionary, but the word is a symbol of something symbolic of great meaning. So every word that we speak is a write down, that's a symbol that means something, okay? But the word esoterically can be much more than just a single English word. It can be a response. A word could even be a book. Say the whole Bible is reduced to an esoteric word, for instance. Your response to your soul, when you respond to your soul, it's a vibration, and the essence of a word spoken is reduced to a vibration. And so you create a certain type of activity, certain type of response on the physical, the emotional, and the mental level. And this creates a threefold word. In other words, your personality self listen to a revelation from your higher self, or from the spirit as may be worded. And all parts of your lower self have embraced it and responded. And when this happens, it says a turning round is caused. The eyes no longer look upon the world of form. They turn within, focus the light, and see revealed an inner world of being. With this, the manas stills itself, for the eyes and mind are one. So when the personality listens to the soul, then responds on all levels, physically, emotionally, and mentally, a turning round is caused, and they begin to focus the light. They focus the light, and we see revealed an inner world of being. This is kind of like the silence in heaven for the space of half an hour. In other words, they do all this work and adjustment and life after life. The disciple struggles, and finally the centers are aligned, and he experiences the peace that passes all understanding, and he has revealed that inner world of being. With this, the manas stills itself. Okay, that's the emotional self, the feeling self. And for the eyes and mind are one, or the manas are, it would be the mind, stills itself, for the eyes and the mind are one. So the mind and all the lower personality stills itself. Now the eyes and mind are one. This is a very interesting phrase also. So think of the physical eyes and think of your mind. There are two different things on the physical plane. You see something and then you register with your mind. But when your spiritual eye is open, the spiritual eye is connected to the mind. So it's like the mind and the spiritual eye are one. They're a unified aspect of perception. So when the spiritual eye sees, it understands the moment the seeing occurs. There's one way of wording that is seeing through the eyes of understanding. So seeing through the eyes of understanding is different than the physical eyes. The physical eyes are like a lower reflection of the spiritual eye. The physical eyes, we just see something and then we think about it and we interpret it. With the spiritual eye, it's instant. There's an instant understanding takes place when something is seen. Next, he says here, the heart no longer beats in tune with low desire, or wastes its love upon the things of group and hide the real. Okay, so the heart, it said in the past, it beats in tune with low desire. So we have our desire nature, and our heart beats in rhythm with it, but the rhythm changes. So now it doesn't waste its energy upon the things that group and hide the real. It beats with rhythm new. Now the things that group and hide the real are things dedicated to like the solar plexus energy. The solar plexus energy groups things together and sees everything in a separate condition. But the higher energies see things synthetically. So it puts the pieces together. So things are seen together as a working whole. Okay, it beats with rhythm new. It pours its love upon the real, and Maya or illusion fades away. Kama and heart are close aligned. Love and desire form one whole, one seen at night and the other in the light of day. So Kama and heart. Now, Kama is related to desire, and heart are close allied. So we have, and in the past, they've been separate. We have lower love of the solar plexus, and then the higher love, unselfish love, which is the essence of the heart center. And so when the disciple makes these great steps, the lower feelings of the solar plexus are allied with the heart. And normally with the average individual, the lower feelings are disconnected from the heart. So they're around his personal desires without thinking of spiritual service. But when spiritual service comes in, his lower desires are connected with the higher. And the lower desires are connected with the solar plexus energy. The solar plexus has 10 petals with 10 different types of energy on them. And I've listed what I esteem to be the 10 different divisions of the solar plexus energy. Now, sometimes you read about the solar plexus energy and DK and other works, and it sounds like they're really negative, but they really have negative and positive aspects to them. Okay, number one, each one of these has a dual meaning. Number one is in the solar plexus, one of the petals represents romantic and selfish love versus hate. So those are the two aspects, romantic and selfish love versus hate, okay? And that's a positive and negative. Second is the trained conscience and then guilt. Okay, guilt is a negative aspect. Conscience guides us in a good direction, but guilt makes us paralyzed. Third is self-esteem and versus ego and pride. 4, happiness and sorrow, both related to the solar plexus. 5 is friendship and vengeance. 6, desire and repulsion. 7, determination. That's a powerful one connected to the solar plexus that people like Anthony Robbins promotes a lot to achieve what you want in life. But the negative aspect is acquiescence. 8 is passion, and the negative aspect is apathy. 9 is aspiration. The negative aspect is submission without thinking. 10 is sympathy, and the negative aspect is loathing. So what's interesting, it says Kama and heart then are close allied. Love and desire form one whole, one seen at night and the other in the light of day. So what happens with these is these are not just something bad. A lot of the teachers say that desire has to be destroyed, but the desire doesn't have to be destroyed. All these 10 things representing the 10 petals have positive aspects that can be used for positive things. The average person uses them just to get what he wants in life, and that makes him fairly content if he gets them. But for the disciple, he switches these passions and aspirations over to center on manifesting the will of God on earth. Then it says, when fire and love and mind submit themselves, sounding the threefold word, there comes response. Oh, there's one thing I left out is he talks about after this desire and heart are close allied, and love and desire forming one whole, he has ellipsis marks there indicating that he left something out. So he left something out that, and when he leaves something out, it's because we're not ready for it. So there's something in here, the key information that has to be revealed to the disciple. And then he says, when fire and love and mind submit themselves, sounding the threefold word, there comes response. So fire and love and mind, the higher aspects of ourselves, sounding the right note, doing the right actions, the right thoughts, the right deeds, there comes response. And that response to the disciple treading the path of Christ is a revelation. Now, the fifth initiation is called the initiation of revelation. It's called the initiation of revelation because the disciple gets a revelation of something that he has to do in order to make this next step. So he gets a revelation about what he has to do for his mission in life, his work, and he has to take that step to become a master as the Christ. And then, once this happens, the one enunciates a word which drowns the triple sound. Okay, the triple sound is fire and love and mind, making a triple sound. And he gets a mission, he completes that mission, he becomes one with that mission, and then the one enunciates a word that drowns the triple sound. God speaks, a quivering and a shaking of the form responds. Now, this tells what happens when the person treads the path of Christ and he reaches the point to where his body can be rejuvenated and live as long as he wants to live. He can extend his life for hundreds of years if he so desires, or he can pass on to higher spheres. And when this transformation works, it gives a beautiful description here of how, of the energies at work when that happened with Christ, for instance, when he was in the tomb and when his body was restored. This is what happened. The one enunciates the word which drowns the triple sound, and the one would be the spiritual center above the higher self, the monad, the from God himself, so to speak. And it says God speaks. A quivering and a shaking, and the form responds. The new stands forth, the man remade, the form rebuilt, the house prepared. So this tells about how the body is completely restored and rejuvenated so that he can extend his life if he wants. The fires unite and great the light that shines. The three merge with the one, and through the blaze, the fourfold fire is seen. So the fires unite, the fire of love and higher mind and fire unite themselves, sounding as one voice, one spiritual voice, and through the blaze, the fourfold fire is seen. And so anyways, beautiful words. I've written a treatise on that I have online, and if anyone wants to check it out.
Is it called a treatise on white magic?
I think it's called The Words of Eternal Life or something like that. Have you read it before, Joshua?
I might have. I've read most of your stuff.
Yeah, you probably.
I
read it.
started falling asleep during the meditation, so I thought we were on Revelations.
Okay. Okay, good group today. Is any comments or questions you want to talk about? Are you guys ready to have your bodies rejuvenated? Ready to grow your hair back there, Joshua?
Yeah, that'd be nice. I've been seeing commercials for this carbonic acid shampoo. I wonder if that stuff is actually real or not.
Was that for growing hair?
Yeah, well, in these commercials they say that like normal shampoo doesn't get into your pores and unblock them so nutrients can get in there and stuff. But
Well, they have
carbonic
this.
acid
They have this
is-
infrared cap you can buy. You put it on your head for like 15 minutes a day, and it's
Huh.
supposed to stimulate hair growth.
Well, what they say in these commercials is that the things that stimulate hair growth don't work because they can't get in there because your pores are blocked. And you need the shampoo that really gets the gunk outside of it.
I heard that before. It was way back in the 70s. I bought shampoo with that type of ad behind it, and I started losing the shampoo. I lost most of my hair after I used that shampoo. I just quit using it, and then I quit losing my hair. So it was kind of annoying. With some type of herb, I can't remember the name of it, but I haven't seen that advertised since. I think it was a really big deal for a couple of years. And I can't remember the name of that herb that was in it, but must not have been that effective because I haven't seen it advertised for years.
Well, they say it's carbonic acid. They're just not talking about an herb, so I don't know if it's the same thing or not.
Well, another thing that's supposed to help hair growth, I did a little bit, but not enough to make a difference, was when you finish shampooing, rinse your hair off with the coldest water you can get, and then massage your scalp vigorously. And that's supposed to stimulate hair growth, get the oxygen to the roots and stuff. And I think that was good. If I'd have done that regularly, I might have more hair now. But but anyway, odd topic, but it's one that a lot of people are interested in. Okay, any other comments? Yeah.
What book is this now that we're on? Or is
What's a?
what's the topic now? I guess we moved on from Revelations.
No, that's this excerpt from the DK there amplified something we were talking about from the book of Revelation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we're still on Revelation, but that was just amplifying that the meaning of the chapter 8 there. Okay. Any other comments before we sign off here? Well, appreciate everybody showing up, and we will see you next Sunday at 10 a.m. all being well.
All right, bye, everyone. Light and love.
Thanks, BJ.